Hello, everybody. Welcome to SpeakEasy with Shipping Easy. Good to see you all. My name is Rob Zaleski. I am the head of brand for Shipping Easy, and I'll be your host today. SpeakEasy is kind of an informal event where industry professionals and seasoned small business owners share their e-commerce stories and experiences. We hope you'll learn, maybe laugh, and leave with new ideas and ways to improve how you manage your e-commerce orders, your business, and your shipping. Real quick, a few housekeeping items. This will be recorded. So if you have to drop off for any reason or if you miss something, we'll definitely be sending a recording to you afterward. We will hopefully have time at the end for a Q&A, but feel free to type your questions as we go. We might be able to address some of those kind of in the conversation. And then if you run into any issues, try exiting out and coming back in. That usually fixes it, whether it's audio or slow lagging video. It's also a good idea to kind of close other apps. So if you've got Slack or other browser windows or things going on in the background, sometimes that can cause some issues. So now would be a good time to shut some of those down so that you can fully enjoy the experience and the conversation here. And I am joined today by Josh Williams, our Senior Manager of Implementation here at Shipping Easy, and Rodney Small, Vice President of Sales for Global Post. Today, we'll be chatting about international shipping, whether you should or should not be doing it, some best practices if you decide to, and ways that Global Post makes international shipping a snap. So, Josh, feel free to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. Really excited to be here again. Rob, it's great to see you. Had a ton of fun in our last one. Looking forward to this one as well. And Rodney, good to see you too. Thanks for being here. My name is Josh Williams. I have a great job here at Shipping Easy. I get to help customers configure their Shipping Easy account, teach them how to use it, teach them how to put in all the settings that they need, domestic, international, all of the above. And I hope maybe I've worked with some of you that are on here today in the past, or if not, I hope I get a chance to do that. So just really excited to be here, guys. Thank you.
And then Rodney, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Rob. Rodney Small, I'm Vice President of Sales for Global Post. The first, I'd say, 20 plus years of my career in the small parcel shipping was with the Postal Service. The last 10 years, multiple different companies, but the last 5 with Global Post. I've been really fortunate in my career to work with some of the largest shippers across the country, and which has been awesome. But also at the same time, working with some of the smaller ones and watch them really grow to become those larger customers. So it's been, I think there's a lot to learn from both sides. So hopefully I can share some of that with you guys today. I love easy shipping, so of course I love Shipping Easy, and I think it ties right in with Global Post. We're all about trying to make the international shipping as easy as possible. So excited to be here and appreciate the opportunity to speak with you guys. Thanks, Rob and Josh, for having me on.
Absolutely, glad to have you. And it's always great when we have the same mindset of trying to make shipping easier for all of our merchants. And so I've actually been really looking forward to this discussion because I've written about shipping and e-commerce and branding and all that, but international shipping definitely has been kind of a dark spot for me, and it's not something I feel super comfortable and familiar with. So I'm actually probably going to learn something as we go along here as well. So, but I think probably a question that's on a lot of people's minds is, should they even be shipping internationally? Like, what are the benefits? What are the concerns? So Rodney, if you would let's talk a little bit about like why even consider international shipping for a business.
Yeah, I think, Rob, your experience is very, very familiar when I talk to different customers, different shippers. They get a product, they start shipping domestically, they understand it's relatively simple, but they see an opportunity to start growing their business and reach new customers. And it's, a little intimidating, I think, when you first start doing that. And so, when people first start looking at it, they're should I do it? Does it make any sense to do it? And what I say is, take a look at your product, look at what your competitors are doing. Are your competitors, do they have a strong presence overseas? If that's the case, then chances are you'd probably be successful in doing it also. But the main point to doing it really is expanding your market base, getting an opportunity to sell your products to more people. And with an international presence, just becomes a greater brand awareness, which everybody seeks.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, if your competitors are doing it, you don't want to be losing that business opportunity. But if they're doing it, there's clearly interest there. So it's all about expanding your market and finding new opportunities to increase your business. So now that we've kind of established why you should do it, let's talk a little bit about why the hesitancy. What is really holding people back? So what are some of the kind of specifics about international shipping that make it a little bit more complicated or intimidating?
Yeah. So domestic shipping is easy, and so when you're shipping domestically, it's there's a lot of carriers out there, there's a lot of options. You've experienced yourself probably, even if you're new to e-commerce, you've experienced receiving packages. So the whole thing's just easy. With international, there's always rules and regulations. You start looking at the different countries, and you're thinking, can I ship my product there? What regulations do I need? What carrier should I use? What makes sense in that aspect of it? How do I know if addresses are correct? The U.S. has a great address database that you can bounce off of. But if I start shipping internationally, how do I even know I'm shipping it to the right people? Those are the things that start to come up as just the hesitancy. One thing I think that keeps people from doing it is they will say, well, I'm very successful on the domestic side. If I start shipping on the international side, what percentage of my business, and is it really worth the effort if I'm only going to increase sales 5%, 10%? And so I've had a lot of customers who were doing very well domestically, but just didn't really want to go after the international market because they thought it was for 5% or 10%, there's way too much work involved. Some of the work that I think gets involved is custom forms, duties and taxes, harmonization codes, just a lot of things we're not familiar with here in the U.S. that is required. So it's really the rules, regulations, custom forms. Those are the type of things that I find keep customers from moving in that direction. And that's even true for somebody. It's kind of funny as I'll ask somebody, do you ship internationally? And they say, no, we don't. And then through conversation, they do ship to Canada. And they're, well, yeah, but Canada, that's not really international.
Close enough.
That's easy. Yeah. Yeah. It's
right next door. Right?
And so, yeah, it's right next door. And so, so that's, but if you're shipping to Canada, there's a lot of similarities to the rest of the world that you can then move out to. And so, I think we'll cover it, with SpeakEasy and, some of the tools that you guys have that make it easy to ship internationally. But, those are the things I find is just, rules and regulations.
And I see Josh is bringing up the screen here. You want to
Yeah,
give us a little bit of an example of what that looks like, Josh?
Yeah. Just to kind of build on what, Rodney, pretty accurately laid out, right? It's all the other stuff. It's the I don't know what duties are. I don't know what taxes, I got to do, and what's right, what's wrong. Am I going to break any rules? All of that stuff. The great thing about, in SpeakEasy is that we give you, we handle it for you, basically. There's in your settings app, every account has an international shipments menu in here, which this is the place to start when you're starting to ship internationally, because we're going to give you kind of the big hits of, what you need to, the information that you need to have in here will get you, 90% of the way there, right? So we're going to ask you, what kind of, what are you selling? What are you going to be shipping international? Is it a gift? Is it letters? Is it documents? This is a global setting too overall. Now, keep in mind what you put in here in your settings menu is all global in the fact that this is going to be the default for all the international orders. However, you can change any one of these components on a per order basis. So say, most of the time you do, sell items commercially. I would set that here, but every now and then you do maybe want to send somebody, a friend or something, a gift where you don't want to have them to have to pay the taxes and everything. You can go and change that on an international level, on a per order level. But again, so here is, just a quick, what kind of content are you shipping? It's just a general description of the goods. Say you're shipping, like shirts or apparel. What country is it manufactured in? Harmonization code. Rodney, fill us in on what harmonization code is while I kind of show you how we can do an in-app lookup to find the code that you need.
Yeah, and really the harmonization code is just the ID for that product. So it's going to tell whoever's looking at it without having to do too much work, what is the product that we're looking at. So as it clears customs, the harmonization code is pretty critical.
Yeah, so as you can see, I'm a seller. I sell t-shirts. I just typed in shirt, hit search, and it kind of gives a breakdown. Okay, what kind of shirt it is. Basically, what what the customs people want to know is, what is it made of? Is it? Well, you can kind of see the breakdown here, right? So I'll say, for this one, it's all my shirts are 100% cotton. There it is, just puts it in right there, for you. All these override descriptions, I normally just recommend that customers leave those blank. If you need to change something, I can show you how to do that. But this is something that's pretty important. You do want to be able to include your signature on the customs form. So by law, every customs form has to have a signature on it. Now, you can, after the label prints, you can, sign, break out a pen and sign the customs form. Or the real easy thing here is just to click this box and just type, the customer name, your name in here, and that will print a digital signature on there. And then you don't have to remember to do that. Just makes it a whole lot easier. So again, this is in your settings. These are international, your international settings globally for your international orders. Now, in the event you do need to make a change on your per order basis, that's really easy to do. As you can see here, we can print labels for international orders right here on the orders page. If it has everything that it needs, you'll get a label price right here, and you can just generate that label. But say you do need to make a couple of edits. The easiest way to do that is to move it over to that ready to ship screen. And I have an order over here, and this will give me a little bit of a better view as to what is going on with this order. So I have all of my typical carrier settings here on the left. But here's where the customs information is. Now, don't let this freak you out. It's pretty general, right? As a general rule, you really kind of don't want to override the customs form. It's not recommended to do that. Just make sure that everything that is here is actually what you're shipping. And the most important thing is that the weight that's on the customs form, which is 12 ounces here, matches the weight that's actually what you put or what is here on the shipment. So don't worry if those don't match up. SpeakEasy will pop up a little box that says, hey, this doesn't equal out, something's off here. Maybe your per item weight is off, or maybe the wrong weight was entered in here. We're just gonna help you ahead of time to make sure that everything checks out before you get to print that label. And then again, once everything is filled in, that blue buy label button will be available to you. It's a one-click print, and you have your label. And so that's pretty much all there is to it in app. So I'll stop sharing my screen and turn it back to you guys.
Excellent. Thank you, Josh. Before we move on to some other things, let's break down a little bit of like what are duties and taxes and how is that handled, and what should merchants be thinking about when it comes to duties and taxes?
Yeah, great question. So there's really two options on duties and taxes. There's duties unpaid and duties paid. So you'll hear it referred to as DDU or DDP. It's just delivery duties paid, delivery duties unpaid. So it's really one of those things to take a look at your product, take a look at your customers, really depending upon which country you're shipping to. I personally like to give the receiver of my product the option. Do I want duties paid, or do I want them paid once they get here? For example, somebody in Canada, if you were to ship something duties unpaid, when it gets to them, often there's either $9.95 fee or $19.95 fee just for them to pay the duties and taxes. So if you could get it duties paid up front, sometimes your customers will enjoy that. But there's a lot of packages that get to Canada that don't get duties applied to them. So it's so you might have a customer who says, "I'd rather the package just come to me because chances are I'm not gonna have to pay duties anyways." But as a shipper, as the merchant, you run a risk just because when that package gets to Canada, if the customer's kind of playing that game, like when they do have to pay it, they're going to refuse it and maybe reorder again. So I think best practices is to go with duties paid when possible. But there's a tremendous amount of reasons to do duties unpaid. But again, I think leave that up to your customer. As far as what they are or the cost, and it really does vary by country, and so you want to understand the duties and taxes to whatever countries you're sending in. Again, it's something that we can definitely help with and make it easy. When you first start out, duties unpaid is kind of a nice way to start because it just takes any of the burden off of you as the shipper. So a lot of our smaller shippers, I think, or people new to international, start with a unpaid solution.
That makes sense. Yeah, it could be a major problem if people are not wanting to pay once the package is already shipped. Shipping internationally is not necessarily cheap most of the time, so that seems like a pain.
Yep.
Very cool. So I like that because that was a really good tip on kind of how to approach it when you're starting off, or how to approach it, if you are more of an established business. I love putting it in the customer's hands because then that kind of includes them in the process, which I think is really smart. So let's talk about a little bit about some of the best practices around international shipping. So, Josh, could you give us a little bit of an example of like kind of what the difference looks like on a screen of a regular shipment versus an international shipment?
Yeah, absolutely. In all honesty, it's not too different, right? For those of you merchants that are on here, you're familiar with, the way that, your orders page looks like. One thing that is good to do if you do ship internationally is to go in and add this address type column here. Because then what that will do is the international orders will have a little I in there, and they'll stick out, on the orders page against, your regular domestic orders. And to do that, you would just go in here to the More menu, arrange your columns, and then anything that's over here on the left-hand side are available to you, you would just take it and just drag it over and put it in the order that you want. You want to have it displayed on your screen right over here to what's actually showing. So really easy to do that, but that's something I would really highly recommend you do. You'll just be able to handle these maybe differently, maybe take a little bit more time and another minute or so just to make sure that everything checks out okay. And then you can set a filter, to be able to, just choose whether, say, you want to just see all of your international orders or all of your domestic orders. It's really easy, just a one click here in the destination filter. So makes that really easy that way. And then again, everything that I kind of said, in your settings, that gives you the best place to start. Is make sure the fields in your international global settings are filled in. One setting that I kind of breezed over and didn't talk too much about which I'll go back because some people may have, some questions on this, is these tax ID numbers, tax identification numbers. Rodney, you're pro on this stuff. I'll let you kind of speak about that, but all this to show you in Shipping Easy, we make it really easy for you to be able to just, add a new tax ID number and then just fill in the spaces that are there.
Yeah, and the tax ID number is really just your identification. again, with custom. So you're going to want to make sure that you have it. What's nice about what you're showing here with Shipping Easy is once it's in there, It's kind of, now you don't have to think about it. But if you, especially like the VAT there, that's a big one. If you want to make sure that if you're shipping to most of Europe countries, there's some Europe countries now that have the VAT value added tax. You want to make sure that you have your tax ID number. And again, it's one of those things that it's easy to get. There's companies out there that can help you with that. We don't do it directly at Global Post. Get your tax ID number, but just put your tax ID number in there, and Shipping Easy makes it perfect on our end to receive that information and make sure that all your documentation accurate.
Yeah. One thing I will say, and I know we'll get into this in a little bit, I can say, Global Post makes it really easy to ship internationally because, at the distribution center, the people there make sure that everything checks out, before it goes, on a plane or on a boat to get overseas there. The team there and the folks there really do a great job of just making sure all the T's are crossed, I's are dotted, when it comes to this stuff. But really, in Shipping Easy, it's not so different from a domestic label to an international label, especially when you have your initial settings all filled in here. So, but I would recommend definitely adding that column to just give you a little bit of a different view of, say, I'm going to process all of my domestic orders first, and then I'm going to do all of my international orders after that. Having that column in there and that filter, making use of that filter is really kind of a good practice to get used to.
I love it. All right. You guys have convinced me. International shipping can be easy. Should I just open the floodgates, just ship everywhere?
Let it roll, man. Let it
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So actually, where should you start, Rodney? Like, should you just say, okay, the world is my oyster, or should you start certain places? What would you recommend for somebody just getting started?
So I recommend start easy. Just start off with the easy countries, and the easy countries for us really is Canada, not Mexico. There's some unique challenges to Mexico, which I think I'll cover maybe a little bit later. But I would start easy. So I would start off with Canada, Australia, English speaking countries. I think are the easiest place to start off because you don't have to worry about changing your verbiage on your site. Do you have, are you going to be able to sell the site? But one other area I think people often overlook that's a great place to start is take a look at, give it your call center today. Where are you getting requests? Where are requests coming in and that you haven't thought of? So if you're doing no marketing and France is calling all the time saying, hey, we'd love to have this product here, or whichever country, but that's a great place to start because it kind of gets your demand going. Another great place to start, or things to think about, is just where is your product available to sell? So we had a customer who did custom knives. Well, there's a lot of countries you can ship those custom knives to. And so, let's identify those, make sure those aren't on your list, and try to focus on the places where your product makes sense. So take a look at your product, look at countries that are already requesting it, and then I would say start easy. If you're experienced shipper and maybe you're in Canada and Australia already, then I would just say take a look at expanding, 220 plus countries that we service with Global Post, same as DHL and others. There really is the world's oyster type thing. Once you feel comfortable with it and you're saying, okay, now we can do this and expand it. I wouldn't be afraid to expand, but I would start off small. Okay, yeah, I feel good about this. I'm comfortable with this. My call center knows how to respond to questions. Those things are critical. Because the last thing you want to do is start international and a call comes to your call center and they're like, I don't know, so that's, want to make sure to avoid that.
Yeah, definitely. So for countries where you are unable to sell your product, is that like just like kind of a quick Google search, or are there specific resources that can help you find that information?
Yeah, there's specific resources, and one thing you can always do is with Global Post, you can reach out to us and let us know what your product is, and we would be able to tell you yes or no if a product can go somewhere. But I think a lot of people have an idea, right? I mean, if you're selling a shirt, well, interesting though, if you're selling a shirt, I was gonna say, yeah, it's fine, but depending upon what's on the shirt, certain countries may not allow you to send something in. So if it's just something to think about, as you're doing it. But I would say if you have any concern, reach out to us, and we can definitely help with that.
Yeah, that's something I definitely would not have thought about. Like not just the product itself, but like kind of the content of the product could be restricted. Wow, that's fascinating. Yeah, that's really good to know that Global Post actually helps merchants figure out if that's a viable option. So that's really good to know. I did not realize that actually. And so what are some other kind of best practices that we should start thinking about? Like, and we kind of covered making sure that your customs forms will be fully filled out. Making sure to check and see like where your competitors are selling. Let's talk a little bit about how long it takes to get to some countries, because I know when you order something, you want it as soon as possible, right? Like that's why Amazon does so well with 2-day shipping and Prime shipping, because it's like people want it now. So when you're communicating with your customers, what do you recommend? Kind of do you be totally upfront about it? Do you kind of try to be vague? Like what should you do when you're talking about how transit time?
Yeah, I would say be accurate and honest with your customers. One of the things I love about being on the international side as opposed to the domestic is that domestic just keeps getting squeezed, further and further, tighter and tighter. Same day delivery, I forget the comedian, but talking about like Amazon now, like, I don't want Amazon 2 days, I want it now. Those type of things. And so that's the domestic side. On the international side, you actually get a lot of leeway from customers. When they order something, you want to be accurate in your time frame. And there's 2 ways you could do that. Again, reach out to us. But I always say is just kind of monitor your shipping to certain countries and see how long is it taking, and keep that, because the international market's a little bit different. For example, during COVID, it wasn't you could see 30-day or 45-day delivery times or whatever. But customers were pretty accommodating during that time. Like if you're shipping something domestic, there's no way that would fly. But when ship international, there's a lot of leeway. But I would just say best practice is not to overpromise. That just creates calls to the call center. But when you're setting up your delivery, again, I think options are great. So where Global Post, for example, is depending upon the country, anywhere from 3 to 10 days, and each country's not 3 to 10 days, but certain countries 3 to 5, other ones 7 to 10. Those type of things. We can provide you all of that information, but I would also have like a DHL Express or something expedited. There's no reason not to provide more than one option, and then take a look at the cost and kind of lay it out to the customer. Hey, this is the time frame on here. If you need it expedited, we have an option for you. We could get it there in 3 days, 1 to 3 days worldwide with like a DHL Express, somebody like that. So it's not uncommon when we work with the customer to make a recommendation like that, even though it's not going to flow through us. We make that recommendation because it does couple things. One is it provides that option for your customer, but it also makes them think, oh no, I did choose the slower service. I did choose the 7 to 10 day service or whatever. So now that it's on week number 2 and I haven't received it, I chose that service. And so it just kind of again eliminates customer frustration and calls to the call center.
Yeah, we're just setting expectations is important.
Yeah, definitely.
And I mean, this is going to become hyper important here in the next couple of months as we kind of start barreling into the busy holiday season. And I just want to make sure everybody on the call today knows that every year ShippingEasy publishes blog posts and typically like printable graphics around holiday shipping deadlines. And we do include a lot of international locations on that to help you be prepared and communicate with your customers about what kind of deadlines to expect with the different carriers. So keep an eye out for that on our blog. Like I said, we do it every year. I got a couple of the carriers that have already put out their deadlines. So we'll be putting all that information together for you in a nice, neat graphic. And so I think that kind of takes us into, well, actually, we do have a question, and I think we all knew this one was going to come up too. Let's talk a little bit about returns, because I imagine that international returns are a little bit more of a different beast than domestic returns.
Yeah, for sure. So when I think of returns, there's really kind of two parts to it, right? There's the one where it's just, you ship to somewhere, the carrier couldn't deliver it, the bad address, never reached the customer, or the customer refused it. So that's one portion. So with those, it comes back depending upon the country. Canada, we bring them back. But depending upon the country, and again, it varies by carrier. So I don't want to speak for all carriers here, but depending upon the country, we'll have a consolidation point where we will then, our customer service will contact you and say, hey, this package didn't get delivered. What do you want us to do with it? We can return it for this cost, or we can donate it, destroy it, whatever it is that you would like us to do with that. So that's one aspect. And then the other aspect is, I ordered a pair of shoes and they're too small, and now I want to return them. How do I do that? We have return solutions just to a couple countries, but we do have we have a Europe return solution, but unfortunately that's only Europe to Europe right now, not Europe to the US. But we are very close to launching that. But in that case, what we recommend is using a carrier in whatever country, utilizing that to get it back, or having the customer ship it in and obtaining the tracking number. Those are kind of where we're at today. But returns is a big issue. But one of the things that we do is, kind of to your point earlier, Rob, before we send it out, is we do verify addresses. So if it comes to our location and we say this is not in our database, we'll reach out and say, hey, this address, because our goal is just to try to eliminate that return. If you don't have like a harmonization code, there's no harmonization code here. We'll look it up. We'll look at the product description and we'll add the harmonization code for you. So anything that could cause a package to not be delivered, it's in our best interest to help the customer do that before it leaves the States, right? So here it's here. Let's make sure before we send it, all the data, documentation, everything lines up before we send that product out.
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
And Rodney's not going to probably toot his own horn on this, but all those things that he just said in terms of the carrier adding the harmonization code for you if you forgot it, that sort of thing. That is something that Global Post does specifically as an international carrier. The other carriers don't necessarily do that. And so I think somebody asked, what's the most expensive? Does everything include tracking? Do we drop off at the post office or ship directly, to the customer? We can get into that a little bit, but the good thing is that the simplicity of international shipping through Global Post really is highlighted with some of the other, the other international carriers. They operate independently, whereas with Global Post, it just makes it easy from my experience, and then hearing from customers that use it, that have used other carriers before. There's not that kind of direct contact where if they have a question, they can go to the website, they can pick up the phone and call somebody actually answers that question and helps out. So just wanted to insert that 2 cents there for you.
Yeah, and just build on that a little bit, Josh, is I think that's where it comes down to, just making sure your descriptions are accurate and detailed. And if you're choosing harmonization codes within ShippingEasy, that's in there already. But if for whatever reason something happens and it's not there, just make sure your description, because then that helps us look at it, and we even do spot checks. We'll look and say, does this actually, does the description really match what the product is? Does it make sense, and those type of things, and that's again just something we do on our site, and it's our goal is to eliminate returns up front, and that's all part of it for us.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, love that. So we're definitely getting some questions kind of about process here. So I think let's talk a little bit about kind of how Global Post works and how Global Post works in Shipping Easy. To give an idea of, so if I ship a package with Global Post, kind of what happens next? What does that look like?
Yep.
Yeah. Do you want me to jump in?
Go ahead.
Yes, please.
Go ahead. You take it. You take it.
Sure. So this is why we love partnering with Shipping Easy. I mean, this to me makes it makes it so easy for us on so many different levels. So you go through and you put in all the information that's required. Shipping Easy tells you if it matches, doesn't match, and everything's accurate. So everything's accurate, ready to print a label. It's not uncommon, depending upon which carrier you're using, or which country you're sending to, where to the product, that you may have to print out custom labels and put them on. You might have to do 3 custom labels inside with the Global Post through Shipping Easy. None of that's needed. We're fully integrated. So when you enter all of this information into Shipping Easy, that is sent to one of our hubs, and we have 6 hubs across the country. So when you click the print button, what's going to be printed is a U.S. domestic label. It could be a first class USPS first class label, a priority mail label, domestic, or it could be a UPS domestic label. So just depending upon where you're at, we determine what's the best way to get it to us the quickest to our hub. So once that label is generated, and it's and we have that the U.S. domestic label, then you just hand it off to the USPS. And so there's perfect example. One going out Ground Advantage, and it's so yeah. Thanks for this, Josh. This makes it great. So you can see that it has a USPS tracking number, but that's just a domestic tracking number. But if you look at the bottom, you'll see international number down there, and that's the tracking number that we would provide you and your customer. And so every time that U.S. domestic tracking number is scanned, the information is updated with with that information. So and then once it gets to our hub, so the Postal Service receives it, Postal Service brings it to our facility, our hub. There we're going to over label it with whatever partner we're utilizing in any given country. So United Kingdom, I think we have 4 different partners who are who we utilize there for final mile delivery. So we're going to relabel it with that. And what's beautiful about our system is that it is dynamic. So you could ask us like, well, who's going to deliver my package? And I could tell you today, but that could possibly change a week from now, because we're monitoring their performance, and we're making adjustments as time go on. They'll reach out to us and say, hey, our volume's really high or whatever, and so we'll start switching to a different carrier. So it is dynamic, but that information is then provided to you in tracking out who's going to make that final delivery. But again, there's a new tracking number, but you don't have to worry about it because that original tracking number we gave you. So one way we really make it easy, and why a lot of customers who've been reluctant to try international have tried Global Post, is that domestic label that gets printed out. We can make sure, on your, if you've never done international, one of your concerns is always what's going on the back dock, right? So if an international product, are they going to know what custom forms to put on there, and it's complicated? And then what if my top person back there is off, and the person has international, now the person, they're on vacation for a week, what's going to happen? And you don't have to worry about it. It's just a domestic label gets put on there, and they hand it off to the USPS, and then USPS brings it to us, and we handle it from there. A lot of the times we're not required to put on the additional documentation, and the reason why is we do it electronically with the different countries. So we're going to, in most instances, just have to put a single label on whoever's going to do the end delivery for you and everything. And so as the plane's flying out to whichever country, it's clearing customs while it's in the air.
Yeah, I was going to ask Rodney. So I think with some people, it's confusing, right? You have an international order, you have the customs info, and you hit print, and you get a label that's going to some sorting facility in Illinois. I think somebody asked this question. This is exactly what's supposed to happen. So for you as a seller, this is a domestic shipment, and Global Post handles all the international arm of it, which is really kind of the beautiful thing. As you saw when I clicked print with this label, there was no other forms that came out afterward. No forms I have to like put in a I call it a Ziploc, but I know that's not it. The bubble wrap, the plastic piece or anything like that. It's one label. It's going to an address that you can read that is in the U.S. And but again, that tracking number, that tracking information is available on the Global Post website. Right from your shipment history page, there's a tracking link that'll take you right to Global Post website, and which will give you all of the updates of where it's at and all of that as it moves to its final destination.
Love it. Yeah. So easy. I do have a couple questions in here that I want to address real quick that I've asked about rates. We're not going to really be able to specifically compare rates because there's so many things that go into it, whether it's package dimensions, weight, destination, whether it qualifies for dim weight or not. So we do in ShippingEasy have a really nice rate calculator that will give you put all the information in there, and it will actually give you side-by-side comparisons across the carriers that you have available to you so that you can choose the one that's best for your budget. So I definitely recommend using that. If you already are a ShippingEasy merchant, it's going to be in the left-hand column. You'll see rate calculator, but I believe you can also do it in the little tab on the order slide out as well. So that's the best way I recommend to make sure that you can see all the different rates that are available and find the one that's best for you.
Yeah. And yeah, that's a good point, Robin. And what I will say is that if in your ShippingEasy account, you're not going to see kind of a breakdown of the international carriers, but I do want to let you know that Global Post is available to all ShippingEasy customers, and so we'll just make sure that everybody that's on the webinar will make sure that if it's not already turned on in your account, that we'll go ahead and preemptively enable it for you. That way, when you do get an international order, it'll be there waiting for you as an international carrier. So you won't have to go looking for it that way. We'll just make sure we get that done for you.
Love that. Thanks, Josh. I do have a question here, and I'm assuming this is within the ShippingEasy app. It says, what's the difference between commercial sold item and merchandise under the content type? Do you know what that's about?
In the settings, I'm assuming?
I think so.
Okay.
If we don't have an immediate answer, we can definitely follow up on that.
Yeah, we can definitely follow up. That's something that maybe a quick Google search might answer. I always recommend to customers, normally the people that are using ShippingEasy are selling goods, commercially on some, website or platform that we have an integration to. I would say we could look that up and definitely get back to you. The default I know is a commercial item, and I'm one of those that's a big believer on the defaults are in there for a reason. So unless there's that you're for sure it's a gift or something that's pretty clear that way, probably selecting commercial is the way to go.
I love it.
I would just add just on the rate is. That's another thing, just to make sure that some people will say, "Well, I'm going to put this at $5, so duties and taxes is lower when the actual cost is $50." We recommend be honest, because those are the type of things that tie up your product in customs. It's not each country I think is getting better at because of technology of looking at and evaluating actual costs. So they will actually go to your website and look at the product cost on your website for something, and if it's charge it at that point. Again, best practices, just be honest with it. It is what it is, right? I mean, if your customer has to pay duties and taxes on it, if you try to go around the system, more today than it did even a year ago is going to cause delays in your shipment.
Yeah, that's a really good tip, actually.
Yeah, a real quick one that we can answer. Does Shipping Easy verify international addresses like we do for domestic? Yeah, we do. When the address comes in, if it's an international address, we do verify it. We look it up. If we can't fix it for you, we'll alert you that we can't verify it, and then you can kind of have your choice of what to do. You can either edit it yourself or just kind of go with what is there. I will say that it's in the carrier's best interest to make sure it gets to where it's supposed to be. But there's a lot of resources out there, and really for you as the seller, it's really a personal choice as to what you do there. But by default, yes, the answer is yes, we do verify international addresses.
Yeah, super helpful, especially with the different formatting and all that.
Yeah, for sure.
Rodney, we have a question. Are there weight and size limitations when it comes to shipping internationally or through Global Post?
Yes. And so within the rate chart, and this is built into Shipping Easy, if you put something outside the range, and really it's country specific. So we base it on what are the delivery criteria for either our partner or kind of just the general criteria within a country. In general, the maximum weight is 66 pounds worldwide, and then there's some that go up to 70 some countries. So if your product's under that, there are dim weight factors with our product. Just again, to be honest and accurate or whatever, practice it is so that if your product is larger but doesn't weigh very much, there's going to be a dim factor that like other companies, because it's about that space on the plane more than it is the weight. And so I think answers it.
Yeah, that's really great. And yeah, it's important for people to always be thinking about dimensional weight, because that's, I think, a factor that a lot of merchants kind of forget about. If you do have a large package but doesn't weigh much, that it's going to actually cost a different cost than just by the straight weight. In Shipping Easy, we actually will automatically apply the dimensional weight if it applies. Is that correct, Josh?
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Good job, Rob. Yeah. So if you give us the dimensions and also the weight, if that order does apply for dimensional weight, we'll check the prices against each other and choose the lower one for you. Again, with the service that you're choosing, it doesn't transit doesn't change anything in terms of transit time. All it is that we'll always default to the lowest cost for you, given if it's dimensions or weight. So yeah,
Love
great
it.
call out.
There's a question on which countries you offer the service for. So Rodney, you said it's over 200 countries for Global Post, right? Are those on the website at all?
Yeah, they're on the website. You can find our list pricing and countries that we serve. It's 220 plus. I want to say it's 222. Sometimes it's 225, depending upon what's going on in the world and which countries we can send packages to. So that's on there for our duties paid. It's the numbers growing, but it is only 6 countries right now, but it's the majority. We're getting ready to add 4 more, I would say, within the next month before peak. And so the duties paid solution, which is we refer to as Global Post Plus, will be increasing also. But for our Global Post Standard, which is our flagship product, that's 220 plus countries.
That's awesome. This is an interesting one, and I think anybody that sells fragile items would definitely have a concern about shipping internationally. So how is that handled? Is that just adding insurance through Shipping Easy with our partner? Is it based on how does the any included insurance or anything like that work?
Yeah. So what's great about a product, depending upon the product you select and the really, I guess it's more the product you select is you're going to receive either $100 of insurance or $200 of insurance upfront for those shipments. So our claims rate, I'm glad this question came up because it's one of the things that we try to do. So like if it's coming to our facility and we're like, this is not packaged correctly, we reach out to those shippers and say, hey, this is gonna cause you more issues down the road. Our claims rate is just over 1% right now, and that's for non-delivery or damaged packages across the country. So we're really, I think, pretty easy on somebody calls in. A lot of the times we just issue it. Because we don't get very many calls. We don't get a lot of people saying, my package wasn't delivered or it was damaged on delivery. But it's critical. Again, and actually had in my notes for best practices but didn't cover it earlier. And that's when you're shipping internationally, I think even more so than domestic, just make sure the package is properly packed so that you try to stay away from that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And Josh, you're showing people where they can add insurance if need be. I appreciate that.
Yeah, super easy. As you can see, we give you a little note here that Global Post Service you've selected automatically includes the $100, like Rodney said. Say the value of this though, this shipment is $200. You can just add that here, and then it gives you the fee of this like an extra $2.50 to cover a $200 order. I'd say that's pretty good. Definitely highly recommend that. But again, really easy to add, just to enable this, and then you can choose the insurance provider, the amount that you need, hit update, and you're all done.
Looks like we have a clarification question. So when someone enters all of their information in and they get the shipping cost in SpeakEasy, does that just include the USA leg, or is that to the sort center, or is that the whole international shipping cost?
Great question. That's the entire international cost. Is the domestic leg is included in that rate. So you don't, we cover the cost of the whichever label we print out, and that's really just based on your location, how we determine that. But whatever label gets printed out, we will we cover the cost of that. So the rate you see is the rate you pay. One of the things, again, trying to make it easy, we don't have a fuel surcharge. If there's any, let's say, I think one of the questions in there was, I saw pop up was around, what if I, put the wrong dimensions in and those type of things. When it gets to our hub, we weigh and measure every package. It's all automated, obviously, but it, gets weighed and measured. And as it moves through our system. So if there is a discrepancy, we apply that to your account through SpeakEasy. So you don't need to keep a different account or anything directly with Global Post. Again, we're fully integrated, and so it makes it very simple for you. And again, if we see it as an ongoing issue or whatever, we reach out to a customer because we don't want to be, adding charges. We'll say, hey, this is off for whatever reason.
Yeah, I like that. Looks like there's a question if they can print a label or generate a label here and send it overseas to have a shipment come from overseas to the USA. Josh, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that would be no, because SpeakEasy shipments can only originate from a United States address, right?
Correct. Yeah. Reason being is that we have, domestic carriers, and the carriers like it when the person who's printing the label is actually in the country that they're going to be shipping from, and we are a US based country or company. So to your point, Rob, yep. You're welcome, Dave. Glad that helps out.
All right. Well, this has been a very lively discussion, but I do want to respect everybody's time. So I think we're going to wrap it up here. Josh and Rodney, thank you so much. I think there's a lot of really helpful information in here.
Yeah.
Hopefully merchants, got a lot of good input and have a better idea on whether they want to try to ship internationally this year. As a reminder, we have been recording this. We will send out a recording to the email that you registered for the webinar with, and that should be within a few days, I believe. Our video guy is usually pretty quick.
Yeah. And these extra questions that we didn't get to, we'll make sure we get back to you, over the email that you registered with. We do want to make sure that you get your answer one way or the other. And really just appreciate all the great questions today.
Yeah, this has been a great discussion. Josh, Rodney, any parting thoughts?
No, appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, and I would say, look, if you're even debating about international, it's not as complicated as maybe. Hopefully, we've been able to tell you and explain that it's not so complicated as maybe you thought about it before you came in here. And anything that we can do, on the shipping side at SpeakEasy, please reach out. We have a great support team that's very knowledgeable. Also on the Global Post side, the support there is fantastic. And so we'll be able to help you out any way we can.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, everybody, for joining us, and happy shipping.
Happy shipping.